Hey folks, so Star Wars month has ended, so I'm back to my other content. If it's one thing I really love, it's the Lord of the Rings, and it's Middle Earth. I've read the Silmarillion many times, I've read Lost Tales, I've read The Hobbit many times, I fell in love with the universe when I was in my early teens. I love Middle Earth, I love the simplicity, the good versus evil, the themes, the messages, the deep spirituality of Middle Earth and Tolkien's vision. I love the orcs versus elves and video games like the various Lord of the Rings video games. I'm such a freaking Tolkien nerd. I watch people play Lord of the Rings role playing game, and yes, it exists. They did a Critical Role style Lord of the Rings role playing event, and I freaking loved it. Middle Earth is a beautiful world. It's all about enchantment, spirituality, magic, and in Tolkien's view, magic was the spiritual ability to co-create and sub-create reality, and to use art and technology and spirituality to enlighten and bring joy and creation into the universe. And I really enjoy that message. I really enjoy the battles. I really enjoy the hot elf chicks. Hell fucking yes. I really enjoy orcs. I really enjoy the industrial hellhole that is Solomon and Sauron's empires. I love the Empire of Mordor. It's sick and gothic as hell. I love fighting orcs. I love slaying orcs. I love committing genocide of the orcs, you know? I love the Shire. I think the Shire is a perfect world, a perfect anarchist state where you just get high and drink all day and you read philosophy and you just enjoy life. Man, that'd be awesome. That'd be freaking sick. I'd love that. Tolkien was a very complicated person. I don't agree with all of his views. I grew up Catholic, especially trad Catholic, so I have a lot of issues with his own personal politics, but weirdly enough, he wrote a very deep, meaningful spirituality and mythology we can all relate to. You can be pagan, atheist, queer, and find meaning in Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth, and the Fellowship of the Ring, which could have included woman characters, but it didn't. And here's my hot take. I think the movies are written in the books. I think Peter Jackson did a better job of portraying Tolkien's vision to a modern day audience than anyone has or since then or beforehand has tried. Tolkien created a world that inspires us all to be the hero, be the chosen one of our own journey, to be forgiving, to be kind, and to be loving and accepting, and to not give in to evil, no matter how hard it is. You know, I really emphasize that with Tolkien. And once again, did I agree with all his views? Hell no. He had a lot of beliefs that I think are just way too rad trad. I don't agree with his take on women. I don't agree with his take on queer people. I don't agree with his take on capitalism. I don't agree with his take on, well, Disney films. I mean, the guy was kind of a Puritan, but he did make a work of art that got the ball rolling for the entire D&D fantasy genre we now enjoy today. Earth is one of those universes that has outgrown the views and opinions of the author and has become a world we all exist in and live in. Whenever we read the books, whenever we play the video games, whenever we LARP, we are participating in we are participating in the world, not the vision of Tolkien, the world he created. And the world is beautiful. It's a magical universe talking about friendship, relationship, spirituality, good and evil, and being a better person. I really enjoy Middle Earth for that, and being the chosen one in your own destiny. I just think many fantasy games and products have outdone Tolkien in many ways, and have taken the source code for the chosen one and given it to just about anyone. But as much, and like, there's women who enjoy Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit I enjoy because it was a lot more modern, and we actually had female leads. But no, Lord of the Rings, I even enjoy Rings of Power for those reasons. I think Tolkien there's so many progressives that even love Lord of the Rings, okay? It's something that we can all fall in love with and try and emulate in our own lives, through his journey, fighting against evil. Something I really like about Lord of the Rings going forward is, so here's a message for the day. There were talks of Lord of the Rings sequels as far back as the 60s, series of books that'd be sequels to Lord of the Rings. And he cut all those sequels, and there's only fragments of it left. We had the Tolkien estate in the early 90s. Get this, TSR, the creators of D&D, wanted to buy Lord of the Rings and make D&D books like Dragonlance or Cell Adventures and modules So after the movies, I would have expanded Tolkien's work and his world and his politics. But his estate said, no, we want our father's legacy to be untainted. Weirdly enough, they gave the rights to Rings of Power to make what they made. And yeah, and now, finally, you know who's going to do justice to the Lord of the Rings sequel? We got Stephen Colbert directing a Lord of the Rings sequel. And I'm really, really excited about that. I mean, personally, I see a lot of movement on the internet and a lot of nerd spheres to expand Lord of the Rings, making that the new cultural mythology. And I'm all for it. I mean, I think Lord of the Rings has outlived the vision of Tolkien and his Catholicism, and has become a fresh, new fantasy universe we can all immerse ourselves in and have a lot of fun in. Happy about the games I've really enjoyed over the years are the Lord of the Rings video games. I've really enjoyed the Shadows and Mordor series. I mean, just finding your way and slaughtering the orcs, making genocide of the orcs, enslaving the orcs, being a dark edgelord with dark magical powers, and fighting the forces of the demonic empire. I love it. It's a metal as fuck. I love committing genocide of these filthy orcs, these filthy greenskins. It's fucking phenomenal. And it's a massive open world, Assassin's Creed style, like LARP, set in Lord of the Rings. And I enjoy that. I mean, if it weren't for Lord of the Rings, we wouldn't have D&D, we wouldn't have any fantasy media. And I do think, like, D&D outgrew, actually did, kind of outgrew, now did Middle-earth in a lot of ways. But you're an idiot if you forget if you forget where we come from and the impact Lord of the Rings has made on our lives and so many of our lives. I think there's a balance. I think turning Lord of the Rings into an open-minded spiritual RPG / video game series / movie series that still tackles the deep questions Tolkien was proposing, while at the same time, like, being open to everyone. I think there's a good balance and a good market that can be found, and good communities that can be found around Lord of the Rings. LARPs, D&D games. I mean, if the core message of the films stays the same, the books, I have no issue with it. You know, I think there's a balance that can be struck. Like, I don't want to see Lord of the Rings become a Game of Thrones sequel, per se. I mean, the idea of an elven... I like me fantasy shows like Game of Thrones for obvious reasons. I'm a guy, but still, I think Lord of the Rings should remain something that anyone can watch, anyone can enjoy. And are there more adult themes that Lord of the Rings could tackle? Yeah, sure, they could tackle, like, relationships and sexuality. But, like, I think the core message of Lord of the Rings is not politics, it's not sexuality. It's being a good person and not giving into evil. And fighting for what's right. And I think progressives can get along with that, conservatives can get along with that. And there's a lot of potential for video games, RTSs, D&D games, LARPs that could all take place in Middle-earth and could revitalize and reinterpret a lot of things Tolkien was trying to get done with the books. I mean, Peter Jackson did that with the movies, and I think I'm excited for this. I'm excited for a Lord of the Rings Golden Age, where we have orcs fighting dying in the droves, the hands of the Hobbit militia. Hell, fucking yeah! Leave it to the Inklings, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and many others. That young boys club. But no, I mean, I think we could see a lot of potential, Christian fantasy that led to D&D, that led to Magic the Gathering, that led to / movies, The Witcher, that led to that become this that led to the Dark Elf series. And I really would enjoy that. Led to Game of Thrones. Leave it to Christian fantasy. I think there's a lot of politics and world building. Obviously, there's so many politics. To pave the way for a medium we all enjoy to this day, that you can make. I mean, some of us get pegged by Karlach. Some of us really mind Tolkien's work. Roleplay is demon half-bloods in D&D, and we are kind of like Jester from Critical Role. I mean, there's so much that modern day fantasy owes the Christian fantasy authors. And I'll include J.K. Rowling as part of that tradition. I'll include a lot of modern day authors as continuing that tradition, even if it's not preachy and in your face. England has produced some of the greatest fantasy writers of all time, many of whom have been Christian or Western occultists, and they're changing the world for the better. They create a mythology that inspires us to do better, to look at the world with whimsy and joy and awe, with childhood wonder, from Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings. Now, I'm not denying that Christian fantasy can be very limited sometimes, and going forward, if we do commit to Lord of the Rings, if we do commit to Narnia. How about we create Christian fantasy for a modern day world that carries the core themes of the genre that the Inklings were known for, but we expanded to include woman heroes. We expanded to include LGBT heroes, and we don't. It's not a hate evangelical, Templar bro. Oh, I'm the most Giga Chad or Jesus freaks bullcrap out there. How about Christian fantasy for queers, nerds, and freaks and neo-pagans, for them to be the adventurer, be the hero of their own journey, or that be a woman, a non-binary person, a pagan, an atheist. And that's what I think Peter Jackson did really well with Lord of the Rings, and I think that's also something they could do good with Rings of Power. I just don't think it's been as implemented as best it can be, and I'm stoked for Stephen Colbert being the director of a new Lord of the Rings trilogy. I mean, the guy's a very devout Catholic. He's progressive and liberal. He believes in the core themes of mythology, whether that be George Lucas or Tolkien. He's a huge nerd. He's a huge theater nerd. I think he could do a Lord of the Rings sequel and do it justice. I really do. And just this deep sense of spirituality and right and wrong in Lord of the Rings is something that inspires me. I'm not denying there are a bunch of annoying Templar bro, virgins for life, Nick Fuentes idiots that get off to the medieval aspect of Lord of the Rings. I mean, there's a lot of traditionalists that are Tolkien purists and hate anything modern, including characters like Xena Warrior Princess, or women being in D&D. Yeah, you guys are a bunch of incels and black pillars. Go jerk off to your Hail Marys, you fucking dorks. But, yeah, no, I mean, Lord of the Rings is for everyone, and true fantasy with spirituality inspires us and brings us together and makes us want to be the person that gets out of the hobbit hole, goes on the adventure, and is changed for life. The Hobbit is the quintessential hero's journey. The call to adventure, the call to leave the safety of your small town and go on the adventure of a lifetime, face demons, dragons, orcs, and grow as a person and bring that treasure back to your community, which is just another way of saying spend your 20s learning, going and challenging yourself. When your 20s are done, in your early 30s, you're now a full-blown adult with a fully actualized worldview. In theory, hopefully, that you can benefit society and bring the treasure trove of knowledge and experiences that you've gained to enrich your little community. Good metaphor for life in general, especially in your early years, from your 20s, early 30s. Now, I really do think we're working on a Tolkien MMO for freak's sakes. We're doing a Tolkien open world co-op game right now, and I'm really stoked for that. I think Tolkien, if done right, could be a very spiritual form of D&D that has belief in good and evil, but encourages people to find their own journey and have a direct connection with the divine, which is something Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, by him being a trad Catholic, was really good at. And I'm looking forward to more open-world Tolkien Middle-earth video games. That'd be sick. I'd love that. Just give me more orcs to kill. Give me more orcs to kill, and give me some elven Cugibines. That'd be sick. Give me some elven Cugibines and some orcs to enslave/kill. Fuck the orcs. Death to the orcs. Orcs only exist to get wiped out and slaughtered. Fuck orcs. They're not good beings. They deserve the annihilation they deserve. Death to the orc. That's fantasy racism at best. Fuck the orc. And maybe make mechanics where you get high as a hobbit and you go on spirit journeys. That'd also be kind of sick. There should be like lore as a character sheet. Lore as a character stat. And once again, I think Lord of the Rings paved the way for D&D in almost every fantasy genre I enjoy. We all enjoy today. I think in a lot of ways D&D's outdone Tolkien. I think in some ways D&D's become too corporatized, don't get me wrong. I'm not a big fan of Wizards of the Coast. I think if we made Lord of the Rings to a modern fantasy role-playing game series, we could outdo Wizards of the Coast and bring fantasy back to a more, inspiring worldview. A story that truly does inspire us to do better. And there's a room for every kind of role-playing game, fantasy media out there. There's a kind of fantasy and genre of fiction for everyone, and everyone's different. Everyone has their own hero's journey, and it works different for each person. But at the end of the day, all I want to do is get high, slaughter orcs, in the name my glorious Leroy Jenkins. Hail, Eru Iluvatar, death to the orc, and praise be the Shire. Hell fucking yes. Kill those filthy hell beasts. Kill them, they deserve it. Death to the orc. Mordor deserved to get genocide at the end of the last book. Okay, that's my hot take. But in all seriousness, I do think there's a lot of media that we could see coming out of Lord of the Rings, Middle-earth content. A lot of good, fresh takes on Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth that could do a lot of good and could bring a lot of people together and could give us stories to live by. I really do believe that. Even pagan degenerates like myself, who have too much of an interest in Karlach and Slaanesh. But, you know, we need different fantasy genres and different kind of fantasy games for different moments, different points in our day-to-day life. We need a variety of fantasy games. Some fun, some philosophical, some deep, some just stupid and like Templar Bro stuff like Warhammer 40k. I think there's a need for every kind of fantasy out there. I'm looking forward to this new Lord of the Rings era we can be exploring the next decade or so. I think we could do a lot of justice, inspire a lot of people, and bring a lot of people together and form online communities, form LARPing communities, create D&D one-shots. I mean, maybe we could find ways to TSR do that whole Lord of the Rings RPG that they canceled back in the 90s. Who knows? That'd be sick, though. That'd be a sick gameplay. Well, that's where I'm going to end it for today, folks. God bless. Peace out. Take care of yourselves. And hashtag fuck Disney. Peace.